Here we go. Let's do the nose, the straight on first. It's going to look like this when we're done. And I'm working from the portraiture packet. I've got a slew of materials here, my pencils, a mechanical, which I like to do line drawings with, but the HB works equally as well. I've got erasers, one on that one, and a kneaded eraser. And then a couple of smoothing tools, push the graphite around the shading stump, a Q-tip and tissue, and one of my favorites, the graphite stick for when we go into value. I'm using a full sheet of paper, and I've got 2 sheets because I like the padding. It's a little bit easier for me to draw on. Okay, let's take our 8 micron and make some reference lines. I think we'll do one right down the center, and I want to intersect it with the tip of the nose there, actually called the septum. And let's go straight down the middle, which is about right there. If you want to use a ruler or the edge of your paper, it might be a little bit easier for me, so I'm going to do that. That'll be our reference line center. And then let's do it maybe right. We could do it right there. We could do it right there. Let's do it on the bottom of the nose. There's my reference lines, and I'm going to draw those same lines then on my paper. Straight up and down. Straight over. Okay, good. There's not a lot to this nose, right? The eye was pretty complicated, and this is less so. Mostly smooth, and I want to recognize too that the photograph is not a very good photograph. Like, it's super pixelated. And that's not easy to draw from. Sorry to make you do that. The darks, right, are right underneath. They're in the nutties, the nostrils. And that's where our 5s are, right there. Then there's lots of 4s. This whole side of the face is a 4. This, where the ala is, that part, right? That the wing. Ala means wing in Spanish, by the way, and probably Latin, which is what that comes from, is a slightly lighter in value, darker on the outside edge. So I'm going to find that point right there, bring it down to the center, and that point. I think I also want to find a point there on the edge of the ala and right there. That would be great. Let's do those first. Measuring over now. And then up. That's that point right there. Then that one. Might be able to see it a little less clearly on camera. It's kind of hard to see for me. I'm right next to it. coming up to there. Now I note that they're not exactly the same distance. Like this one's a little bit lower than that one. Okay, I'm going to draw in that curve of the tip of the nose. Right? That's what I'm drawing right there. I'm also going to, well, let's do the other side first. It also comes down to a point, like that. Now let's find those points. I'm going to double check that one. I kind of felt like I was off. Looks okay. Okay, now up. Right there. And that's super light, so I'm going to erase. It comes down like that and then parallel to the tip of the nose. And it comes all the way up in here. I can see it slightly up into there. Right, that nostril comes. So I'm just going to produce a nice light line, knowing that that's barely even there. Okay, now let's go to the other side. Noses are generally not very attractive. And most of the nose is seen underneath, right? Because all of this is not a lot of definition to it. And so most of our darks are going to be down there. Okay, there's that edge. And it comes down, rounds underneath, right there. Which is not the same, right? Those two aren't the same, and that's just because of the way the light's hitting it. They are, I imagine, symmetrical left and right, but the way we're drawing it, this will be an easier time for us. I kind of like this point right there also. So I'm going to find that point. I'm going to mark it with my micron. Coming over to there, and then up to there. That's the point. So I got close. I'm going to refine that so that it's in the spot that I want it to be, in the right spot. Okay. Well, what else is there? Let's put a light line here where shadow changes from a 4, quick transition all the way to a 2. Let's put a line right down there. And soft line. Right about there, it breaks around the tip of the nose and it does this curve. So let's mark those points too. Let's get a point right there. Let's get a point right there where it crosses. Maybe right there would be a good place. And here, up here, on the root of the nose, starts to break about there. So I think I want to get all those points on my drawing. Measuring up from the reference line, right there, and make sure that I'm over the right distance. Looks pretty good. Now that one. That soft line comes down. That's where it's going to make the break. And come over to about there. And then up. And then my last one right there. Okay, so with those references, I can draw these in. Not dark, okay? That's in the middle of a transition right there, and we got to keep those nice and soft. There's no harsh edges there. That's all smooth, smooth, smooth. This rolls off there. Rolls off there. Okay, and lest we forget, down below, the philtrum, right? That's a little trough right there. Call that the snot trough. Boogers roll out of the nostril, the nares, and roll through the philtrum all the way to the mouth. So I'm going to make a little outline there of that foreshadow. I'm locating a point right there, and I think I'll make another one right there. That'll help me judge that pretty well. That was the bell right now, not the bell for you. So come on like that, kind of like that, right? Outside of that 4, nice and soft. Here 2. Coming over, and then coming down. I'm hoping you're getting the principles here of finding reference lines and reference points. They're incredibly helpful. And this kind of rolls around like that. Okay, our line drawing is now done. Now we're going to move on to general value. I'm going to get rid of those reference lines, especially in light areas. My 1s and my 2s, 3s. So definitely this one down the middle has got to go. I'm using my kneaded eraser. I got to be careful not to burnish the paper, which is easy to do with erasers, just like it is with pencils. We want the graphite to move freely, and it needs the tooth. And I can use my pink eraser also, but still be soft. And I find it's easiest to be soft with this one. The other key, of course, is to draw your reference lines very light, very, very light, so they come up without much trouble. Now, this line, I'm going to soften up because it's in the middle of a transition, and I can still see it. I don't know if you can on the lens, but camera. I can see it though pretty well. And this one too is super light, so I want to soften that up, especially right there. Okay. Now I'm ready. I'm going to start putting these darks in. In fact, I'm going to start with my 5, which is the nares. So dark. And this side too. In fact, all the way below that, the tip of the nose there is quite dark. And I have a feeling we're going to need to revisit this with the 8B. But we'll start it off with this. Okay, now I'm going to use the graphite stick, and I'm going to work my way down here, out, that side too. And following that edge that I made earlier. And I'm also going to produce one along the outside of that olla. All the way to there. Good. I'm going to put a little bit here and a little bit there. Maybe I'll put a little bit in here depicting that eyebrow. And okay, that's enough. Now, let's smooth it off. Using the tissue. And I want to maintain that edge right there. So I'm going to put some more graphite on it. But for now, I'm just making sure it stays there. Yeah. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about where the value is here, or our ones, our two extremes. So we know our fives are right there. The one looks like is right next to it, right there. I see some pixels there of white. So I get a little white there. I've got some on the tip of the nose. It's kind of a highlight right on the tip there, or the ball of the nose. And I've got some white in here too, going to a 2. Besides, yeah, like that's pretty much everything. So if I got any white, I've got it right there. And it's going dark. There we go. If I got any white, it's coming here, there, maybe slightly some there, not very much there. Everywhere else has value. So that means I've got to spread that value everywhere else, except for those locations. So I'm leaving it white right there. I will heavier, that location. Right, so I'm picking where it's darker, right underneath the eye here. That's darker than this. There's that center coming down. Most of this has value. Most of this has value. This needs to be a smoother transition, but I'm going to put more graphite on it. And also around the side and underneath, right? Super dark down in there, so let's put some more graphite there for sure. And I'm going to work it around. Just need some more. There's the eye socket right over there. Kind of tempted to put that in, but don't need to. And then also I want to keep putting more graphite here, but I want a softer edge right there. So I'm going to just be light, a little lighter to the touch. And okay, now the Q-tip. Thinking I probably need to use my tissue for most of this, but I've got the Q-tip in my hand, so I'm using it. Yeah, that's nice. Good dark. Good dark. And just soften it up a little bit on the edge there to give it a good feel. Makes it look like I have an eye over there, and I didn't really mean to do that. If I'm going to do that, I got to measure it, get it in the right spot. It's about there-ish. And the other eye is like over in here somewhere. Don't need to do that. I'm just, it's there, so I'm going to do something. Okay, don't get carried away. Soften down here. I want to soften some of that nostril. Right, the highlight is right there, and that's what I want to maintain. I got a little strong there. And I still think that maybe we're a little heavy on that transition. I might, well, let's do some erasing first. And okay, we're done with value, general value. It's in now. That was quick. Now we're going for details. So in this photograph, the details are keeping this crisp and that white line right above it. I want to maintain that. this is where most of the detail is, but I want to also keep those highlights. So I'm going to erase some of those out just a little bit using a blotting method. Make sure I don't want any harsh edges here. This is all very soft. And right there is where that highlight is. So I'm going to make sure to maintain that. In fact, the highlight is kind of surrounded by a 2. Maybe I can softly surround that. Q-tip. Okay, I also want to get right on the edge here. Down. Comes down a little ways. I need to refine that edge though. I don't like the way I've left it. Piece of paper underneath so I don't smudge. Yeah, that's it. Soften that up. Getting dark again. There we go. I'm in a room that the lights shut off if you don't move around, and I'm not moving around much. Okay. Now I'm going to take the 8B and make sure that this is good and dark, especially right there, right? And right underneath here has got some pretty good dark. Soften that up. Shading stump. Make sure this is nice and dark. Relatively crisp edge underneath the nose right there. Put a little bit right there. That's kind of soft, so I'm not going to get too picky right there. Okay, about there, I think. There in the Philtrum, want to soften that up. I'd like to soften some of this. Get some of the clean tissue. All right, details are done.